Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar brought to you by Bursa Malaysia and managed by LifeChamp. So this is Shane Choo. Instead of being a moderator, today I am the speaker. Okay. So welcome everybody. How are you guys doing? Let me see if you're doing all right. So maybe type awesome, Okay, let me know if you're doing okay. Good. All right, all good. Safe and healthy. Okay. So today we are going to do this topic, which is build a global portfolio with Shariah-compliant ETFs. All right. So today we're gonna examine how we can use Bursa listed exchange traded funds, which are Sharia compliant, to build a portfolio that can have global exposure. All right. So this is a session today. Now, disclaimer is whatever we share on this webinar is only for educational purpose. So in no way that I give you any recommendation to buy or sell any company. So if you decide to make any investment decisions, you are 100% responsible for all your investment risks. All right, cool. So allow me to briefly introduce myself. I also don't want to blow my own horn. Yeah, so basically I am a financial speaker, trader, and investor with over 10 years of experience trading and investing in local and international markets. I started investing when I was in university. I bought my first share was when I was in the first year. Then when I went to second year, I became the deputy president of investment club in my university. So I started teaching my members about investing when I was in university. So right after that, fast forward 10 over years later, now I'm speaking to you as a speaker on Bursa Malaysia platform. So that's how I got started back in 2008. Okay, so I'm a certified professional trainer by IPMA UK. As a speaker, I speak regularly for Bursa Young Investor Education Seminars, investment banks, and also technical charting companies. I also design and conduct stock simulation games and workshop for Bursa Malaysia nationwide and also for other investment banks. So today I've trained over 15,000 individuals in stock investment. So I'm frequently invited guest speaker for over 20 universities nationwide to teach investment. Currently, I'm a stock market analyst for City Plus FM. So in 2015, I got acknowledged by former US President Obama for my work as a young leader in financial education. So that's a little bit about my background. So of course, I'm still learning. So in the stock market, the learning never stops. So we are still learning every day. So today, I'm here to share with you my experience and my knowledge in trading exchange traded funds. So what we will cover today is you will learn what are ETF, which stand for exchange traded funds, and its characteristics. Then we're going to look into why we should consider to invest in ETFs. So know what are the ETFs on Bursa Malaysia. ETF stand for Sharia Compliant ETF. Learn how to evaluate an ETF and find its indicative optimized portfolio value, IOPV. We're going to uncover the myth of the ETF liquidity. We're going to learn the insights, gain the insights into some of the all of the ETFs past performance, and then we're going to learn how to build a global portfolio with ETF on Bursa Malaysia. So that will be our objective today. All right, so now let's begin. So so this is the performance of Fbm Klci over the past 10 years. Okay, due to pandemic, you see that our Klci is also back to almost 10 years ago. So not much improvement over the past 10 years due to this pandemic. And then can we really buy into a index? Actually, the answer is we can't. So we can't actually buy into index. But if you want to have a portfolio to own 30 largest companies on Bursa Malaysia, then you can invest in this fund that is exchange traded funds. So you can invest in this KLCI ETF, okay, Fbm Klci ETF. So this is a KLCI ETF. All right, so the one that is indicated in orange color. So because we can't invest in index directly, so we can actually invest in ETF that tracks the index that we want to invest in indirectly. So that's how we can go about doing this. All right. So if you notice the KLCI ETF and also the Fbm Kl index, right? In this case, they almost mirror. Okay. Of course, you see some gap there in between the lines that are the tracking differences. So We can't invest in index directly, but we can do that through ETF investment that tracks the index that we want to invest in. All right, so this is indirect investment into index. So now, what actually is an exchange traded fund? Now, exchange traded fund is like a mutual fund that is traded on the stock exchange. It tracks an index, commodity, bonds, or a basket of asset like an index fund. Now, each ETF invests in asset according to its investment objective. So that's what ETF is all about. Now, of course, this is theoretical knowledge. So now, let me explain to you in layman terms. Okay, now, I'm sure you all have heard of mutual fund. Yes or no? Of course, we have had many famous one. Always see like Public Mutual, Kenanga Growth Fund, and East Spring Fund, and so on. So we get a lot of funds, right? Okay, some fund, all funds have its own investment objective. Some funds who are less conservative, who are more conservative. These are the funds that have a higher composition in bonds, and some funds who are more aggressive. Then these are the funds that have higher portfolio composition in equities. So each fund has its own investment objective. So if you want to invest in mutual fund, so what are the benefits? The benefits are, number one, it gives us a portfolio asset. So we can, with just a very small amount of investment, we can have diversified exposure, which is the second point. Okay, we have a diversified exposure into a large number of assets. Okay, in bonds, be it in bonds or in equities market. Then third is, mutual fund charges management fee, because this is to pay for the fund manager and also the cost of running the fund. Then of course you can create and redeem units. So when there are demands to buy the unit trust or mutual fund, then the fund manager will create the units to sell it to you. So when there are people, the investors feel that they want to redeem their money, okay, so they can sell back the units to you and take back the money at NAV. So that's how you create and redeem units to you. So this is the essence of mutual fund. So, but there was actually one challenge with mutual fund, So the issue with mutual fund is that some people, in the West, right, feel that very expensive. I need to pay quite substantial amount of the money to my financial planner. So just think about it. Whom did you usually buy the mutual fund from? It's likely from bankers, right? Or from the financial agents, right? Your financial planner, your CFP or RFP, who actually distribute the funds to you, okay? They will actually ask you questions to determine your risk profile and understand your investment objective. Then according to their understanding, they would recommend funds that meet your needs to you. So it's distributed through this, intermediary agents. So what happened is that, of course, we also have to incentivize the agents to go out to get clients, right? So of course, they also take up a bit of the commission. So the fund have to arrange commission to them. So when we buy an ETF, right, we actually for us, right, the initial sales charge is about 5.5% in average. So in other words, right, if you invest 10,000, 550 ringgit will go to the intermediaries to incentivize the intermediary, including the agents. So that is so effectively you're only investing like 9,450. So people in the West, right, investing in the West feel like, it's very expensive. So what happened is that so they created this thing called ETF, exchange traded funds. So they created this ETF and list this on the stock exchange. So when they list it on the stock exchange, then they can eliminate the middleman cost. So they don't have to pay so high to the financial agents in the distribution channel to distribute the funds. Okay, so the essence of ETF is it is in the middle between shares and also mutual funds. So what are the characteristics of shares? Shares are publicly listed. Shares are T+2 settlement. Okay, shares are you trade through brokerage account. And then shares are low transaction costs. Okay, so that's why ETF was invented. So when they list a mutual fund on the stock exchange, that is an ETF. Okay, so just imagine like this. Okay, I think ETF was invented by was structured by Jack Bogle, if I'm not mistaken, in the US. Okay, American investor, American fund manager. Okay, Jack Bogle. I think they're fund is Vanguard, okay, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so that's why the invention of ETF, right, eliminate the needs of the unit trust agents, and then so people can directly buy a fund on a stock exchange. So that is an ETF. That's why it's called exchange traded fund. Now, so what actually are the differences between mutual fund and ETF? Now, more differences are here. Number one, management style. ETF are primarily passive in nature. So in other words, right, the ETF actually track the market. Whereby mutual fund, the fund managers of mutual fund will always say, I want to outperform the market. I want to beat the market. So that's why mutual funds are active in nature. They are all constant buying and selling of the units so that they can outperform the market. So ETF, essentially, they represent the market because they track the index, right? So it's passive. The fund manager do not need to do a lot of work to balance their portfolio as much as mutual fund. So for example, if there's an ETF that tracks Fbm Klci, so if look at it, okay, let's say the fund size is 100 million. Say it's 100 million fund size. If public bank in Klci index stands about 11.6%, weightage. So the fund manager of this ETF that tracks Klci will set aside 11.6 million to buy in the public bank. So if there's 10% Maybank constituent in the Fbm Klci, right? Then the fund manager of this ETF will take 10 million to invest in Maybank. So that's why they structured. They will design this ETF portfolio composition according to the Klci weightage. So that's why this is how they can use the ETF to track the market. So the portfolio only change when there's any constituent change in the ETF. If there's no constituent change, so there won't be any portfolio changes done by the ETF fund manager. Whereas for mutual fund is different. The mutual fund, right, they always want to outperform the market. So that's why they always constantly do a lot of research to sell the weaker stocks, buy the stronger stocks, in order to outperform the market. So that's why mutual fund is active management style. Secondly, is ETF is buy and sell through brokers, where mutual fund is bought and sold through unit trust agents. ETF, when you buy, right, the price is known when buying or selling, as it is available on the exchange. So you can easily go to the stock market and say, okay, what is the price of this ETF right now? So if the ETF, you very transparent, this is 1 ringgit 20 cent. Okay, then you buy. Okay, this mutual fund price is unknown when buying or selling, as it depends on the end of day net asset value. NAV stands for net asset value. Okay, so when you want to buy and sell mutual fund, right, you actually don't really know the exact price. Okay, for example, 9 o'clock you go to public bank. Okay, you say I want to buy this public growth fund. Then the banker will tell you that, or agent will tell you that, all right, how much you want to invest? You say, well, I want to invest probably 10,000. Okay, then say, okay, then you do all the payments, so 10,000, right? So by the end of the day, they will tell you how many units you have. Okay, you say if the end of day NAV is 2 ringgit, then you have 5,000 units by the end of the day. So at that point of time, right, you don't know how many units you have. Okay, but by ETF, right, you would already know before you invest. So these are some differences. For ETF, yes, continuous trading throughout the trading day. Whereby mutual fund, no. For example, you see, today stock market in the early morning, right, the stock market crashed 1% already. So what do? You say, I want to sell. So you can go to the stock exchange and you sell your ETF at market price. When mutual fund, you say, today market is very bad, right? So you want to sell mutual fund, right? You will tell your agent that I want to sell, I want to dispose of my shares and redeem back my cash. Then they will say, we will let you know how much we will pay you back at the end of the day. So it can only be sold at the end of the day at NAV, net asset value. Okay, so that's why you cannot continuously trade throughout the day. You can only make the purchase or make the sales at the end of the day. Next is management fee. There are some differences. ETF is generally lower cost. Okay. The bigger the fund size, the lower is the cost. Okay. Because to make it, because if the fund size is very small, right? So the fund managers still need to make money, so they have to charge a bit higher. So the bigger the fund size, usually the management fee is lower. Okay. Mutual fund is still higher than ETF. Why? Because there are more work for the fund manager to do. They have to constantly, research about the market. You could constantly buy and sell, so they have to hire more analysts. Okay, so gotta pay analysts, all the staff salary and so on. So, and they have constantly buy and sell. That's why their brokerage fee also higher. So that's why there are differences. So mutual fund generally charge higher fee. Both ETF and mutual funds, their holdings are transparent. Just that ETF, their holdings are published every single day. So mutual fund, right? It is published typically every quarter. Okay, every quarter okay, what the fund owns. Okay, so if you buy in, let's say if the quarter end is March, right? Then if you buy in maybe June, you will get to know what was the March, composition, but you won't get to know the latest. Okay, but ETF you can get to know the latest. Both are diversified, both hire professional managers, both calculate net asset value. Whereby ETF, no minimum investment amount, is up to you. Okay, some mutual fund, yes. So where ETF, right, you can do any various order types that are allowed by your broker. You can do a limit order, market order, stop order, stop limit order. Okay, up to you, as long as your broker allows. Broker platform provides. Okay, and whereby a mutual fund, right, no, you can only choose buy how much, sell how much, how many units. That's the difference between ETF and mutual funds. Hope that is clear. Okay, so let's go to ETF asset class. Okay, ETF got a few asset classes. Okay, number one, we have equity ETF. Equity ETF means the ETF that that buys into stocks. Okay, equities. Second is commodity ETF. ETF that buys into commodities such as gold in this example. Third is ETF that buys into bond. Okay, and fourth is ETF that goes to derivatives, leverage, and inverse ETFs. So these are a bit more. These are tactical tools. Leverage and inverse ETF are tactical tools for speculative trading gain. It's not for investment. But the other three can be for investment. You see, for normal people like us, right? If you want to buy bond, it's very hard. You know why? Because we're going to prove that we are high net worth. We are high net worth individual. So if I think if your bank has more than $250,000, right, and then your banker will call you, sir, I'm your relationship manager. Okay, and now our bank here offer this bond. This bond can help you to achieve your financial goals. You want to invest or not? So if you have less than $250,000 in your cash, in your bank account, then you might not be offered all these bonds. So for retail investor like us, right? So it is not so easy for us to get the bond. But of course, if you can go to the stock market to buy bond ETF, so that's why the bond ETF provide you an avenue to buy the bond with just a fraction of your income. For example, of 1K to 2K, 10K. Okay, you can get into bonds. So now for the IETF, right, which stands for Shariah-Compliant ETF, right? We actually only have 5. Okay, on Bursa Malaysia, we have 5. And the asset classes are only these 2, which are commodity and equity. Okay, we have, out of the 19 ETFs on Bursa Malaysia, we have 5 of them are Shariah-compliant. So we have the Triple Shariah Gold Tracker issued by Arvin Huang Asset Management. We have the METF SID, okay, issued by IVCap Management. We have MyETF DJ issued by IVCap also. METF US50 issued by IVCap, and MyETF ID issued by IVCap as well. So IVCap, I think not too long ago, they got acquired by Kenanga investors. So they're part of the Kenanga group right now. So these are the 5 ETFs that are Sharia compliant listed on Bursa Malaysia, and later we will study how you can use this to construct a global portfolio. Okay, now so here are the 5 ETF. All right, so the first one was listed in 2008, then followed by 2014, 2015, 2017, and 2018. So these are the timeline. These are their net asset values. The biggest one is My ETF Dow Jones Islamic Market Malaysia Titans 25. The net asset value is 289 million. All right. So the other are in tens of millions. And we have one ETF that is price denominated in US dollar. Okay, this is US dollar 13 million. Okay, so why invest in ETF? Number one is give us diversification through a single small transaction. Low cost, so there's no sales charge and have a lower management fee. Trade like so low cost means you don't have to pay 5.5% fee as an initial sales charge, right? You only need to pay brokerage fee 0.1% maybe, or 0.4% for some of you, or clearing fee 0.03%, and stamp duty 0.1%. Very minimal, okay? And add together is less than 1%. So trade like a stocks, you can buy and sell anytime throughout the day, and fully transparent. Okay, you will know exactly what the stock owns. Okay, later I will show you by going to the issuer website. So what are the ETFs available on Bursa Malaysia? Okay, let's look into this. Okay, the first ETF we have is My ETF Dow Jones Islamic Malaysia Titans 25. So the stock code is 0821EA, My ETF DJ. Okay, so this ETF is the first Sharia ETF listed in Asia, not only in Malaysia but in Asia. So its benchmark index, Dow Jones Islamic Market Malaysia Titans 25 index, consists of 25 Sharia compliant securities of companies listed on Bursa Malaysia Securities Berhad, weighted by market cap. So this is a website. Okay, so when you want to study the ETF, right, it is important that we go to the issuer website. Okay, let me go to the issuer website. All right, so assuming that you have clicked the link, so that's a link. So if you click the link, you go to this website, so you know that they will tell you what this ETF is, what is this ETF all about. Okay, blah blah. You read the fund objective, what they will invest in, and then so in other words, right, they invest in 25 Sharia compliant ETF. Okay, weighted by market. That means they invest in the largest 25 Sharia compliant stocks on Bursa Malaysia. Okay, so these are all the fund information. Okay, you can read. Okay, income distribution, semi-annual distribution. Okay, yes, ETF also pays dividend. ETF pays, so you know how much is the charge. At management fee, they charge 0.4%. Trustee fee, they charge 0.05%. License fee, and so on. Okay, so add together, it's almost, it's almost 1% a year. Okay, so how do you know? So if you want to know more, you read the prospectus. Of course, today we don't have to show you the prospectus. Performance later we'll look into that. So what is more important is we go to look at the what do you call that? The constituent stocks. Okay, how do we know? We go to the downloads. So this is an example. This is a website by IVCap. Okay, their My ETF series. So you download, you see NAV. Now today is 16th of July, right? So today's data is not out yet. So this is yesterday data. Okay, you look at it. You see every day, if the holdings is published every single day. Okay, you can click download. Okay, then click agree. Okay, then you can take a look. What are the constituent stocks in this ETF? So let me zoom in. Okay, we have what? The 25 stock we have. Top Glove, Petronas Chemical, IH Healthcare, okay, Press Metal, Nestle, DG, okay, Tata Lega, Petronas Gas, Dialog, KLK, IOI, TM, Nexus, SMW Plantation, Inari, Pet Gas, QL Resources, okay, SMW, Westports, Fraser, FNM, Kosan, MyEG, Duo Pharma, Hibiscus Petroleum, Comfort Glove. I guess you are familiar with at least half of them, if not all of them. Okay, so these are the fund constituent stocks. All right, so you can easily know. So they are very transparent. So this is The ETF that invests in 25 largest Shariah-compliant stocks on Bursa Malaysia, you know their composition, okay, how many shares they own, okay, how many shares they own and how much in total value, okay, how they structure their ETF, okay. All right, so that is about my ETF, huh? Okay, so let's study the next ETF. Now, the next ETF is my ETF MSCI Malaysia Islamic Dividend. Okay, now my ETF, the benchmark index is namely the MSCI Malaysia IMI Islamic High Dividend Yield 10/40 index. It's a free float adjusted market capitalization weighted price return index calculated, maintained, and published by MSCI. So the benchmark index may consist between 16 to 30 Shariah-compliant companies listed on Bursa Malaysia with higher than average dividend yield that are deemed both sustainable and persistent by MSCI. So this is the first thematic-based Shariah ETF in the world. So this ETF, right, primarily focus on Shariah-compliant stocks that declare higher than average dividend yield. All right. So what are the, assuming you click on this link, you click on this link, then you'll go to this website. Okay. So I've clicked, I prepared in advance. So this is the MSCI Malaysia Islamic Dividend, okay, issued by IVCAP. So 25 largest, high dividend stock. So we go to downloads and take a look at the constituent stock. Okay. Again, you click download, click I agree. So what are the constituent stock? Okay, so we have Petronas Gas, Simon W, KLK, Maxis, IH, Time.com, Scientex, Westports, Metric Concept, Takafu, Dialog, Mega First, MSCB, Duo Pharma, QL, IOI Corp, Genting Plantation, Simon W Plantation. So these are the companies that are expected to deliver higher than average dividend yield. So that's why these funds invest in these stocks that can give high dividend yield. So if you are an income investor, if getting dividends is your primary goal, then you can consider to diversify your portfolio by investing in this ETF. All right. So the next is, MSCI, my ETF, MSCI SEA, Southeast Asia Islamic Dividend. So the stock code is 0825EA METF SID. Okay. So what is the benchmark index, which is MSCI AC ASEAN IMI Islamic High Dividend Yield 10/40 index. So it comprises of up to 30 Sharia compliant companies listed in the stock exchanges in Southeast Asia countries, namely Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand, with dividend yields that are at least 30% higher than the MSCI AC ASEAN IMI Islamic index yield. They are deemed both sustainable and persistent by MSCI. So this is the first thematic based Sharia ETF with ASEAN exposure in the world. So if you click at this link, then you go to study, okay, what is this ETF all about? Okay, so yeah, so this ETF, you can read about it, the fund objective, and so on. So you know that how much they charge you, or they charge you these 3 fees. Total is about 0.75%. Okay, total is 0.75%, so very affordable. So again, you go to check what are the constituent stock in case you want to know. Okay, you can click on it. Click agree. Okay, then you'll know what are constituent stock as of Thursday. Okay. Of course, this is in Southeast Asia, so you probably know 10 to 20% of them if you are only invested in Malaysia. So we have all these stock, Gas, Telekomunikasi Indonesia, okay, United Tractors, PT. You see all the PT, is Indonesia companies already. Okay, KLK, Time.com, Indofood, is Indonesia. KC Electric. This one I don't know from which country. Okay, some PT and Scientex. So you see some of the companies' name that we cannot recognize. That means they are foreign. We have Mega First, local one. So you see, some are in Thailand, some in Philippines, some in Singapore, some in Indonesia. So these are the companies that the funds hold. So that's why this fund invests in Southeast Asia. All right. So the next ETF we have is My ETF, Dow Jones Islamic Market US Titans 50. Okay, the stock code is 0827EA, METF US 50. So what is the benchmark index? Dow Jones Islamic Market US Titans 50. Okay, so this is a benchmark index. So this index is designed as a performance index of 50 largest companies by float adjusted market cap listed on the relevant US exchanges. We have passed rule-based screens for Sharia compliance. So it aims to provide investment results that closely correspond to the performance of the 50 largest Sharia compliant companies listed in the United States. It's the first US dollar denominated security listed on the Bursa Malaysia. Okay. So this ETF is a bit unique because it is denominated in American dollar, okay, US dollar. So if you can take a look, okay, which is this one. So this is a index. You can read about the fund objective, blah blah blah. Then you know how much you charge. Okay, you charge this, amount of asset management fee. Okay, everything is transparent. So again, if you want to know what the company owns, you go into this. So if you buy into this ETF, right, that means you will have exposure to the US market. Okay, wow. So these are the lists of company. Okay, the first one, of course, we recognize, right? Okay, which is what? Apple, okay, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, Alphabet, Google, right? Tesla, Nvidia, Johnson Johnson, Visa, Home Depot, okay, Mastercard, Procter and Gamble, Adobe, ExxonMobil, Cisco, Intel, Pfizer, okay, Coca-Cola, Salesforce, blah blah, Apple Laboratories, okay. So these companies are also Sharia compliant. Blah, blah, blah. You can see Nike lah, Chevron Group lah, McDonald's lah. So all are these great companies? Definitely, these are world-class companies. Okay, like Starbucks. Take a look at some of the names. That this ETF, should be performing lah. Look at the US market, right? So we have 12 years of a bull market in the US market. So if US market is booming, so is this ETF. Okay, so if you want to have exposure, have an instant exposure into the US market by just a fraction of the investment cost, right? Then you can consider this ETF, okay, which give you the exposure to the 50 largest Sharia compliant companies listed on, in America. Okay, so that is my ETF, Dow Jones Islamic Market US Titans 50. So the fifth one is Trade Plus Sharia Gold Tracker. Okay, now Trade Plus Sharia Gold Tracker is the stock code is 0828EA Gold ETF. So this ETF provides investors a Sharia compliant avenue to invest in physical gold without the hassle of storing or insuring gold bullion. It is Malaysia's first Sharia compliant commodity ETF. This ETF is backed by physical gold and is redeemable. So this ETF invests in physical gold and it's redeemable. Okay, in Malaysia we only have one commodity ETF, and that commodity is gold ETF, and it is Sharia compliant. Now this ETF is issued by Affin Hwang Asset Management. So it's called Trade Plus Sharia Gold Tracker. Okay, so if you want, some of you here who always got the challenge, I very worried all over the world they printed so much money. I want to have an inflation hedge asset. So what you can do, you want to buy gold, okay, but you don't want to store gold at your house, okay, because physical, you have to invest in vault, and so on. So then you can consider, this gold tracker ETF. So Trade Plus Gold Tracker ETF, this is issuer website by Trade Plus. So this is, you can see the NAV price as of now. They give you this price in two currency. One is US dollar, one is in Malaysian ringgit. So the NAV today, as of yesterday is 22 ringgit 45 cent, and then the closing price yesterday was 2 ringgit 47 cent. There's some bit of spread, So it's backed by physical gold. Okay, a minimum 95% of the fund are held in physical gold. The rest, the remaining could be in, cash, could be, okay. So you got to look at the fund composition. Sharia compliant is yours, okay. Your unit will be entitled you to a portion of gold held by the fund. The fund is is segregated in a segregated, allocated manner, safe kept in a secure vault in Singapore. Okay, it is hassle-free, offered in dual currency. You can subscribe via US dollar or Malaysian ringgit, and it's redeemable. However, redemption block is minimum 500,000. Okay, if you buy 1 unit of ETF, you can't go to them and say, I want to exchange physical gold. Okay, so you have to buy at least 500,000, 500,000 units. You have to buy at least 500,000 units. Then can go to Afin Huang and say, can I redeem my units with physical gold? Then they facilitate for you. They will ship their golds from the vault in Singapore, ship to Malaysia to you. Okay. Of course, all fees incurred throughout the process of collecting physical gold shall be borne by the investor. I actually think if you invest in ETF, not many of you would want to redeem. I think only. But if you want to redeem, right, then just talk to the issuer. But you need to have at least 500,000 units of the ETF. So what are the so the fund, so this one no need to look at it. All 95% is gold, okay? No portfolio for you to see, okay? You just need to know like what exactly, how much cash position they have now. So you'll know how much they charge, go and read about it, how much they charge for the asset management fee, okay? Go to fund information, go and learn more about this, what the risk involved in this ETF, and then what are the fees they charge, so you read about that. Who are the trustee and so on. Yeah, I think Afin Huang is pretty transparent about all the holdings and so on. Okay, so this is a Trade Plus Gold ETF offered by Trade Plus. Okay, offered by Afin Huang. So now, if you look at this, throughout these 5 ETF, right, you know that we already have exposure, okay, to which market? Number 1, to Malaysia market, right? Not only Malaysia equity market, we have access to Singapore market, to Indonesia market, to US market, to Philippine market, to Thailand market, okay? And then we also have access to commodity market. So this is how you can build your global portfolio with IETF on Bursa Malaysia. Now, this is without the hassle of foreign currency exchange, high bank forex spread, high transaction costs, and relevant foreign withholding tax. Okay. Now, because if you want to invest overseas, right, you got to exchange your forex, right? If you exchange forex, then you will gonna all the the BR spread which the bank charge. Some banks charges quite high. Then you have to pay transaction costs also. Then you got to if there are some withholding tax, then you might be imposed depending on where you invest in. So if you invest in IETF, then all of this, you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so this is without the hassle of all the offshore, depositing wiring your money into an offshore account or in the US and then withdrawing back. So sometimes quite headache one. I personally also maintain US portfolio. Sometimes you got to prove that, because some US brokers, they offer you forex, and Bank Negara is very strict about foreign currency trading. So if some US broker offer forex, right, so when your deposit and withdrawal will have a lot more root block. So that's why if you can consider investing in local ETF, they can also give you save you the hassle, okay, of the ease your deposit and also withdrawal. So what you need to know in the ETF, number 1, you must know the investment objective. So before you invest in the ETF, you must know exactly what the fund is going to do. Okay, where they invest your money. Number 2, risk. Okay, now if you know your investment objective, then you will know what are the market risks, right? Because if you invest in gold, you must know what are the risks associated with gold investing. If you invest in the Malaysian market, okay, or US market, you must know what are the risks associated with investing in those markets. Okay, so number 1 is the market risk. You must know what are the risks in the market. Number 2, tracking difference. Okay, some ETF, right, they track more closely. That means the fund manager are doing a better job at tracking the index. Okay, well, some will have a larger difference. You must know which one do a better job. Okay. Number 3, currency risk, right? So if you invest in US, right, you must know there are also currency risk, right? I mean, if you invest in the US, Malaysia, US exposure stocks. You must know their currency risk. If the US dollar weakens, then when you repatriate your earnings, right, you see that it's a bit lower. Of course, if US dollar strengthen, then when you repatriate to ringgit, right, then you see that your funds actually become bigger. So if you really have a global exposure, then you go to the country where you will anticipate that the currency strength will go up, okay, will grow stronger. Then not only you have an investment return, you also get the foreign currency return. Double whammy. Fourth is liquidity risk. Okay, you must know whether this ETF is liquid or not. But mainly in Bursa Malaysia, right, all the ETF got got market maker, so shouldn't have all the liquidity risk. Okay. Number 5 is suspension of creation and a redemption risk. Okay, this is very, very negligible risk, but of course I also have to take it out. There could be some suspension of creation and redemption risk due to maybe market volatility and so on, but this hardly happen. So what are the costs? The cost is, just know that passive fund have a lower expense ratio, brokerage fee, you have to pay the brokerage fee, like how you buy and sell shares, bid-ask spread, that's what you need to know. So how do we evaluate an ETF? Now, number one, you must know the performance. Okay, are the asset in the ETF performing so far? Okay, if it's not performing, you must know why. Why the asset underperform? Okay, if it's gold, then it's easy. Then you know why gold didn't perform lately. Because maybe the US dollar go up. Okay, maybe the volatility is lower these days, so the gold didn't perform. Okay, for example, or they are on tapering mode. So if it's ETF is equity, then you must know why it didn't perform. Okay, which market didn't do well. Second is expense. Roughly get what is the expense. Of course, most ETF passive fund, right, their range is more or less like that. Some active funds like L&I ETF, then they will charge higher. So you must know the expense. Number third is volatility. This ETF high volatility or not? Number 4 is dividends. Do they pay you dividend? How high is the dividend they pay? Fifth is who are the issuer? Okay, are the issuer responsible? Are the issuer, do the issuer have a good track record in managing funds? So these are some questions you can ask. So some of you may say that aren't ETF illiquid? Okay, you look at the volume, no volume one. How? Look at the candlestick, a bit odd one. So aren't ETF illiquid? These are some of the common questions. When I first look at our Malaysian ETF, I also have the same thought. Okay, until that I got educated by industry people. Then actually it is a myth. Okay, now actually you must know volume does not equal to liquidity. Okay, volume does not equate to liquidity in the ETF market. Okay, in all the like structured products, right, that have market makers when volume is not liquidity. Okay, now if you trade in the stock market most of the time, then you know that the bid and ask are supplied by buyers and sellers. So the buyer and sellers are the one that put up a price on in the market. Okay, so it forms the market depth. So that is the liquidity for the stock market is supplied by the buyers and the sellers. So when there are more buyers, then you see the bid price, and then more sellers, you see all the ask price. So you see that you can see the depth But for the ETF market, and also for example structured warrants or structured products market, right? Because they are issuer, when they're issuer, they engage market makers. Okay, they engage market makers to provide you liquidity. So even if there's no transaction, no volume, there will still be liquidity. So in this case, right, volume does not equate to liquidity because, for example, Affin Hwang, right? Affin Hwang Asset Management could have appointed Affin Hwang Investment Banks, or I think it's Melaka Securities, to provide liquidity to the ETF that they some of the ETF that they issue. Okay, all ETF they issue, but some is different market makers. So they are always buy and sell price. I mean, they are always bid and ask price on the exchange. So you can easily buy it and easily sell it, okay, in the stock market, even though you see there's very little volume, but don't have to worry about liquidity. Okay, now ETFs are always liquid because there are market makers who provide liquidity in the market by putting up bid and ask prices at the current fair value of the ETF. So they will, all market makers will attempt to quote it at the current fair value. They will always find out what are the NAV and maybe put one bid above and one bid below for the bid and the ask price. So for example, this is a quote that I got from my broker. So this is the from my trading screen. So if you look at this, right, you see they are always buy Q and always sell Q. You don't have to worry there's no buy and sell Q. So the only thing you got to know is whether the spread is big or not. If the spread is big, that means not so sexy to you. Of course, you want a tight spread. Okay, some spread is a bit, some are 3 cents, okay, some is 1 cent, some is 1.5 cent, and some is half a cent. So of course, the tighter, the better it is. All right. So they're always buy and sell. This is what we need to focus on. Focus on the bid and ask quantity, not on traded volume. Okay. Some have zero trade volume because on that day nobody wants to buy ETF. Okay, but actually there are still buyers and sellers in the market. These are the, if you want to buy, right, the market maker is going to sell to you. If you want to sell, right, the market maker is going to buy from you. So don't have to worry about that, right? Now, so how do we know if the current ETF price is fair or not? So we can go to Bursa Marketplace. Okay, you can go to bursamarketplace.com /market/the market ETF, right? You will pay attention to this IOPV. Look at this IOPV. IOPV stands for what? Indicative Optimized Portfolio Value. It means that it is their net asset value. So IOPV is their NAV. Okay, you must. So this is the NAV. So the market makers, their job is to always give you quote you the bid and ask very close to this IOPV. Okay. So this is what they need to do. Okay. For instance, let me take you this. Hang on. Yeah, this is Bursa Marketplace. Okay. You go to Bursa Marketplace. You click share market. You go to ETF. All right. Let me illustrate to you. So this will show up. You see, this is IOPV. Okay, this IOPV. You do a list. As of now, what is the IOPV? Okay, they are here. But of course, there are so many ETF here, right? Of course, only 5 of them are Sharia compliant. Okay, the one that we just covered. Okay, only 5 of them are in Sharia compliant. Okay, so that's how we can find the IOPV. I think the IOPV is 15-minute delay, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 15-minute delay, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, now some of the let's look into what are the ETF performance. Okay, so let's take a look at the first ETF, which go into, I think, 25 Sharia compliant stocks on Bursa Malaysia. My ETF DJs. Okay, so it's if you look at this ETF, right, for the past 3 years, these are the performance. Okay, you see it's very little volume, but of course liquidity is there in the market. So past 3 years make 4.19%. Compound annual growth rate is 1.38%. Dividend yield is around 6%. Okay, so if you want to have high dividend yield, of course you can go for this. Okay, it's performance as of last Friday when I did the slide. So next is my ETF ID. Okay, this is also the one that invests in a high dividend in Bursa Malaysia for Sharia compliant stock, higher than average dividend yield. So past 3 years, the capital gain is 14% plus dividend yield 5.3%. So in total is 19% return in 3 years period. So third is my METF SID. So this ETF invests in some of the Sharia compliant company in Southeast Asia, namely Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and Philippines. So for 3 years, capital gain is 6.24%. Dividend yield is 5.52%. So this is the return. Usually ETF declare dividend once a year. Huh? So the next is METF US50. Okay, so this ETF invests in the US market. So the price, for the past 3 years, right? US market is growing by leaps and bounds, right? So the drop here is of course COVID-19. So after it dropped, right, will bounce back even stronger. Okay, so you look at the past 3 years, it gains 84% in 3 years period. Compound annual growth rate is 22.54%. So this return may look more sexy to you. Okay, so this is ETF, Shariah-compliant ETF that invests in the US market by investing in some of the largest companies in the world, like McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Pfizer, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, Alphabet. So these are some of the great companies. The last but not least, the Gold Tracker, Trade Plus Gold Tracker, Shariah Gold Tracker ETF. Okay, the stock code is Gold ETF 0828EA. So for the past 3 years, they have 43% gain. So compound annual growth rate is 12.71%. Dividend yield nil. It's no dividend yield. Why? Because gold, invest in gold, how to give you dividend, right? So yeah, no dividend. So this is the performance. You see, all 5 of the ETF, right, for the past 5 years, for the past 3 years, not 5 years, past 3 years still make money. Okay. Of course, the greatest returns come from the US, the one that with US exposure, because US market is unstoppable. Okay, the bull never seem to rest, so can climb forever. I think it's driven by a lot of greed, in the market. Now, last but not least, okay, why do we consider ETF? Now, in US, right, in particular, right, 99% of the actively managed equity fund underperform. So that's the issue. So because they underperform, right, that's why Warren Buffett also encourage people to invest in the ETF market. Okay, so it's because the mutual fund cannot outperform the market, you might as well buy the market. You buy the market, you buy the what do you call that? The Dow Jones market, S&P 500, the stock code is, I think, SPY. Yeah, when I was 21 years old, I used to sell weekly options in the New York Stock Exchange. Okay, I sell options on ETF. Okay, that was 10 years ago. So yeah, sometimes I stay out until very late night just to sell US options. So this is SPY is a ETF that invests in the invests in the 500 largest companies, in the the S&P 500. Okay, so that is why a lot of people consider ETF, because in America in particular, a lot of actively managed funds underperform the market. That's why Warren Buffett also asks people to invest in the market. Okay, invest the market instead of buying funds that try to beat the market. So if you look at the asset growth, right? Yeah, of course, it's projected that it's going to grow very fast. Okay. And Warren Buffett also said that he will leave behind 90% of whatever money he hasn't already given away, not in Berkshire Hathaway shares, but the Vanguard S&P 500 fund that ordinary investors are already buying up so quickly. So ringing endorsement don't come any better than that. So that is by Warren Buffett. Okay, I think in his in Warren Buffett annual newsletter to his Berkshire Hathaway shareholders, right? He also pay huge respect to Jack Bogle, which is the founder of Vanguard Fund. Now, an entry fee in Malaysia's fund management industry is among the highest in the world. Okay, so if you want to save money a bit, then you can consider to have the mutual fund characteristic, by investing in ETF. All right. So yeah, I think I have done enough to conclude the session. So yes, thank you so much for paying attention. So we can now go to question and answer. Okay, let me stop sharing my screen. Okay, have you been learning something so far? If yes, right, type 1. Let me know if I'm doing okay. If you learned something so far, you type 1. All right. Yeah, thank you so much. So for anything is not clear, you may ask me in the Q&A box, not the chat box. I will do my best to address your questions within the time limit. Okay, the first question asked by Faiz, how to buy ETF? You can buy ETF, just go through a broker to buy ETF. Like how you buy and sell stocks, just go through your broker to buy ETF. Why name Dow Jones but invest in KLCI? Because the index is created by Dow Jones. Okay, because the index is created by Dow Jones, so the manager just follow the index. So who maintain the index? Dow Jones maintain the index. Okay, I know it's confusing. For example, MSCI, who maintain the index? It is MSCI maintaining the index. Okay, so for example, our FTSE Bursa Malaysia index, who maintain the index? It is FTSE. Okay, the UK firm who maintain the index, not local firm that maintain the index. Okay, so Dow Jones is the one that maintain the index. So the ETF have to name after it. Okay, because the index is Dow Jones index. Is it better to invest in a gold ETF or in a gold passbook bank account? Well, that question is by Peter. To me, it doesn't make so much difference now. Okay. But I read about that lah. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, I read about that there could be insufficient gold if everybody having a gold passbook or silver passbook in the bank, right? Will want to redeem their golds, okay, or silver around the world. There will be a shortage of gold and silver. So that means more paper asset has been created than the actual asset. So if you buy into a gold ETF that really invests in physical gold and store it in the vault, I think it will be a bit safer. If of course I stand to be corrected lah. I read about research to say that a lot of paper instrument are created more than the supply. So of course I hope I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, then okay. So, but if you want to be safe, then I think gold ETF, I think Trade Plus gold ETF sounds safe lah. How is the liquidity of my ETF? I think just now I showed you already. Not much volume yet. If you look at some of the ETF, right, not much transaction volume. However, liquidity is a plenty one, unless the market makers are sleeping. Okay. If the market maker are sleeping and not providing any buy and sell code, you can tell the issuer, or I think you can also report to SC, if I'm not mistaken. Shane, is there any ETF Sharia compliant that about China market? The answer is don't have. So we don't have this yet, So we don't have this yet, unfortunately. But we have non-Sharia compliant ETF that has exposure to the China market. Okay. For our Muslim friends, maybe you can't. For non-Muslim friends who are okay to consider non-Sharia compliant ETF, then yes. Okay. I think there are a few players. I think Principal Asset Management also issue one. Affin Hwang Asset Management also issue one or two, with China exposure, at least two with China exposure. Okay, so you can consider. If I'm not mistaken, it's 0829EA. You can check it out. Okay. I think the Affin Hwang one is the one that invests in the new economy. So if you want a new economy one, that means you want to invest in like Alibaba, Tencent, Meituan, all these companies, right? You can go for the new economy ETF issued by Affin Hwang. If you want the conventional economy one, you can go for Principal Asset Management that invests in the A shares, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so but they are non-Sharia compliant. So to answer the question, no, there's no Sharia compliant ETF with China exposure, but non-Sharia, yes. What if some of the ETF without IOPB price? How could we check the fair price? I think if they don't display the IOPB price, right, you refer to the issuer, okay, to ask them. The issuer will IOPV is faster lah, because I think it is only 15-minute delay. So but the NAV is end of day long. Okay, if you want to know instantaneously, which with only like 15 minutes delay, right? Then you need to check IOPV. If you don't have IOPV, I think you can drop a line to the issuer and to ask them what is the fair price right now. Esther asks, IOPV, how do we know whether it's good or bad? So you weigh whether this is expensive or not, So it just tell you, the IOPV is actually the fair value of the ETF. So the number will tell you what is the fair price of the ETF. So long that the market bid and ask price is not too far from the fair price, that I think it is still okay. Does ETF charge annual fee? Yes, it charges you annual asset management fee, 0.something%. I show you annual trustee fee, so on. Can we short ETF? I believe it's no. Okay, I think IDSS, the scope of IDSS does not cover ETF, and essentially, right, no one in the same mind will want to short ETF lah, because ETF not much movement because diversified, right? If it's diversified, so the volatility is not so sexy. Okay, if there's no so sexy, right, there's no movement. There's very little movement for you to make enough, make enough money in a short period of time. You get what I mean? So I think nobody in the same mind will want to short ETF lah. Okay, if you want to short one that is high beta, highly volatile, okay, according to the market, then there's some movement for you to make money, okay, because most people in the stock market can do IDSS. IDSS means by the end of the day to cover back your short position. So you don't want to waste your brokerage fee shorting something that don't move, right? So yeah, so that is my answer to that. Going forward in the next few years, in view of the QE tapering in the US, would you agree that gold ETF performance would not be promising? So this is a question by Peter. I think commodity market bull run will still be extended. But of course, right now, because commodity has risen so much, right? So the inflation pressure has, has come into the market. So we see that the gold and silver prices also got hammered down because of the rising US dollar, so that the price go down. So that will, of course, impact the gold performance. So I think right now the gold is trending sideways with a slight bearish bias. So that is my view. Okay, but in the event that there are some crash, right? For example, there are some bond bubble bursts, or there's a monetary reset, or for example, okay, so sovereign debt crisis, for example, then maybe gold will also pick up. For now, I think the market is slightly bearish bias. Of course, this is just my view. I have to reiterate that I'm not a licensed investment advisor, so I can't give investment advice, but this is just my view. How do I buy ETF? Do I need to open a trading account? Yes, yeah, it's just like your normal trading account. Normal trading account can buy and sell ETF, right? Stephen asks, for those ETF invested in foreign market like Dow Jones, when we are market open, okay, so when our market is open, the Dow is closed, how is the bid and sell price determined? Stephen, that is a very brilliant question. Okay, now basically his question is the one that track US market, right? When US market is open, we are closed. When our market is open, US is closed. So how does the IOPV work? The answer is the fund manager will reference the futures market, because the futures market is moving almost 24 hours a day. So they reference the future market to get an indication of what is the fair price. How can I buy China ETF fund? Yeah, you can buy China ETF fund by going to the stock exchange. I think just like I mentioned to you a few, right? Just figure out. Okay, you can go to the Principal Asset Management website or Trip Plus website. Okay. Do we have to pay brokerage fee and buy ETF? Yes, the answer is yes. Okay. Where to buy Etf US50? Okay. Check with your broker. Okay, Mohammed Sofian, check with your broker. Can we apply technical analysis to buy? I think no lah, huh? Because the because ETF market is a fund, right? You don't do technical analysis on the fund, huh? How to start trading in ETF? Like how you buy and sell shares? Okay, Chim, hope I answer your question. Okay. How to invest in ETF efficiently? DCA or time the market? Now, of course, ETF, because it's passive, right? So dollar cost averaging is a very sensible trading investing strategy. Every like how you buy funds. Some of you here, every month also set aside some money to buy PRS, or to buy go to take out some money from EPF to go to some funds, right? So yes, I can do dollar cost averaging. Is a very sensible investing strategy. Or if you have a bullish view of a certain market, for example, now you have a bullish view on the gold, then you, of course, when you have a bullish view on gold, then you can buy when the price is low. Then that's where you can time the market. Is there a reason why the US dollar denominated ETF does not pay dividend? That question is by AB. Actually, I did not study so much, but I think you gotta ask the fund manager to be 100% sure. Okay, I did not invest in this ETF, so I never bothered go to study why they didn't pay dividend. But the whole idea of investing in US, right, is not about dividend one, because dividend for foreign investor, right, we have dividend withholding tax. If you want to invest in US, right, the dividend withholding tax is 30%. So the whole idea of investing in the US market is more about capital gain. It's not about dividend yield, okay? Because capital gain is not tax. Dividend is tax, 30%. But to better answer the question, right, you check with IVCAM, okay? May I ask, in what currency do we pay for US ETF in Bursa? If the ETF is quoted, denominated in US dollar, then it is US dollar. Okay, in this case, right, it is US dollar. How is market maker make money out of it? Are they from broker firm? Now, Esther asked this question: how market maker make money? Yes, I think they make money through the bid and ask lah. They have some spread, right? But if there's nobody buy, right, they also won't lose. They also won't make money. Of course, they also need to do hedging position. So it's not so easy to become a market maker. Okay, it's not like sure win one. So they also have to do some hedging position. So they make money by selling it to you slightly above the fair price and buy from you slightly lower than the fair price. So that's how market makers make money. So that's why they provide liquidity to you lah. Okay. Can we use existing CDS account to buy ETF? Answer is yes. You can use your trading account to buy ETF. I'm new to ETF. Can we buy online ourselves? Yes, you can buy online yourself. Okay. How they decide NAV price of the ETF daily? This question is by Muhammad Kadir. Every day they track the closing price of not every day, like almost like every moment, okay? The closing price of the ETF, of the constituent stocks in the ETF are tracked. So they can give you the IOPV. So if there's any big fluctuation, then they will know, what is the IOPV right now. So for the unit trust, right, every day at the end of the day, they'll track the closing price of the particular security in their constituent stocks, and then they weigh, okay, what is their quantity in this stock, and divided by the overall holdings, so to get you the net asset value. Sui asks, are there any tax payable when we repatriate the profit from overseas ETF? I am not a tax consultant, so you don't take my words for it, because every country, right, is different. But if you ask me about major country, if you ask me if you invest in a US ETF, right, there's no tax, no capital gain tax. Dividend, yes, like I told you, is 30% dividend withholding tax. If you invest in Australia ETF, I think if the profit is fully flanked, I think they call it fully flanked, then it is no tax. If the profit is not fully flanked, then there will be some dividend withholding tax. But capital gain tax, no lah. So these are some. Singapore, I think also no. Okay, but for other countries, for example, you ask me South Africa, I don't know. Okay, so yeah, so you check with your tax consultant. Okay, I'm not familiar with every market in the world. Is brokerage fee similar to when we buy and sell share? Yes. Okay, answered that already. Who does the Sharia screening of the portfolio of shares in Dow Jones? Okay, I don't know. Okay. So who do the Sharia screening? For example, for Bursa stock, it is SAC lah, Sharia Advisory Council of Securities Commission, who do the Sharia screening. But for Dow Jones Index, right, who do that? I actually don't know. Okay. You may check with your issuer, maybe they know. Is ETF available in all brokerage firms? I think yes. Okay. Yeah. It's yes, but whereby there will be some ETF, right? Maybe the brokerage firm do not offer maybe of your account status. Maybe your account is not Sharia compliant, or if your account is Sharia compliant, then you can't see the other non-Sharia compliant ETF. Okay, so sometimes you cannot see. Okay, yeah. So some people also sometimes cannot see the trade plus goal, but you have to contact your broker, So you need to check. But essentially, right, theoretically, right, it should be offered by your brokers. Okay, let me see. Can we buy online ourselves like shares? Yes, I answered that already. Some are repeated question. Is ETF popular among Malaysians? Not so popular. That's why we are doing this session to educate about ETF. Okay, not yet that popular, but in the US, right? In the NYSE ARCA alone, which is the primary stock exchange for ETF, right? They are already, more than 1,700 ETF listed there already. Okay. The trade has to be in how many units? One lot. Okay, minimum is one lot. Can we buy Spdr ETF from local brokers? If not, do you know where we can buy it? The answer is, if your broker provide you access to the US market, the answer is yes. Okay. Can we buy ETF via our CDS account? Of course. Do ETF have perpetual life? If not, how long usually is the life of ETF? If the ETF has a sizable asset under management, it should go on for as long as the issuer is incentivized to do that. Okay? Because if the fund size becomes so small, right? For example, it's in a single digit million. Okay? The ETF issuer also do not make enough money to pay their staff, their managers already. So then they might close the fund. So long that the fund size is still reasonable for them to keep it afloat, then it should be there. Some ETF are really there for very long. Okay, so it has to be make business sense. If the fund size is too small, if not many Malaysians support our local ETF, then maybe some funds have to be closed. For example, I think not too long ago, one of the ETF by IVCAP was also delisted. Okay, which is the Thomson Reuters Asia Pacific Business X Japan agricultural. It is an agricultural ETF. So the interest was not so huge. So that's why IVCAP delisted. So there were funds that got delisted before also. Okay. So if there are enough asset under management, it should be there. The larger the asset management, then the lower should be the fee. Okay. How to get in touch with ETF broker? Just contact them. Okay, contact the issuer that I've shown you. What are my thoughts on 0829 China ETF? I think it's fantastic. I think if you ask me, right, I think China market is very exciting. So yeah, you can consider that. Of course, today's session is Shariah-Compliant ETF, right? I have to highlight that it is not Shariah-Compliant. Okay, so for Muslim friends here, this is not Shariah-Compliant. Okay, but for our non-Muslim friends here, yeah, 0829 EA looks, the constituent stocks look exciting. Okay. How much is the brokerage charges? You check if it depends on the brokerage account. Okay, so if your brokerage account charges 0.42%, then your brokerage charge is 0.42%. ETF versus mutual fund, which one is more worth? Like what I mentioned earlier, there are some differences, so you weigh lah. Okay, so which one you want to invest? It is up to you. Is traded like stock every day? Yes. Will ETF expire? No. Okay. Well, there are still so many questions. Is the annual fee deducted from trading account? Okay. And dividend is credited our trading account, right? Yes, dividend is credited in the trading account, saving account. Yeah. And then the annual fee is, annual asset management fee is daily rest. So every day it deduct a bit, deduct a bit, deduct a bit, deduct a bit. Okay. Mary Lee, I bought ETF from a bank, but when I want to sell, the bank charge difference from the market. Is it advisable to buy from bank? I think you're not buying ETF from bank. If you buy from bank, it will be mutual fund already. Okay. How to buy ETF? You could go through a stockbroker. Okay. The stockbroker could be an investment bank that you sign up a stockbroking account with, or securities firm. Okay. You can't buy ETF from a commercial bank. So you have to check with your bank. Okay. You buy like mutual fund, that's not ETF, it's a mutual fund. Okay. What is our Bursa ETF performance against SPY ETF? Of course, SPY ETF outperform us, by a huge margin. Okay, the US market is so bullish right now, right? So yeah. How long is the usual time frame to hold ETF? This is a very hard question to answer, but usually nobody trade ETF on intraday basis, buy in the morning, sell in the afternoon. So long that the equities or the constituent stocks in the ETF still grow in value, then of course you can still hold unless you have some investment needs, right? You have some financial needs where you need to dispose. So it's all up to you. You could consult your financial planner to see how long you should stay invested. Okay. So it's up to you. Okay. But generally, nobody trade ETF, in the short term. Usually people hold it a bit longer term. Okay. I think minimum also half year and above. Would it be possible for ETF to be delisted? Yes, that's not an answer already. Okay. Hi Shane, how do you know the fund size for each ETF? Yeah, just check with the check with the issuer. It will tell you what is the fund size right now. Is there a maximum number of units issued? Is there a maximum number of units issued? I think it's open-ended. So there would be no maximum units issue. If there are more demand, right, they keep creating more units to you. If there are more demand, they keep creating more and sell to you and take your money to invest in the asset. Okay. So if no demand, then of course they won't create. So it all up to the market force. Share is listed through IPO. How about ETF? Yes, ETF also got prospectus. Like I've shown you, right? Just now, there are prospectus, right? You can download. Okay, let me show you again. You see, ETF also got prospectus. Okay, that means the first day they list the ETF. For example, okay, this is a prospectus. Okay, you can download the ETF prospectus the first day they go listed. Okay. Okay, if ETF is better than unit trust, why unit trust still survive? Now, firstly, this question is by Tiong Ting. Okay, firstly is I never say ETF is better than unit trust. Okay, let me share with you some perspective lah. In Asia market, right, where the price discovery mechanism and also the what do you call that? In the Asian market in particular, right, our market is not so efficient compared to the Western financial market. You know, whereby unit trust, right, still outperform the passive market, the passive funds. Okay, if you look at the American market, right, the ETF is the market, right, but the many of the mutual fund actually underperform the market. But in Asia, right, a lot of mutual funds still outperform the market. So in terms of percentage, right, I would still say that especially if you invest in growth fund, if the manager are doing a good job, then we should see a decent return. Okay, so I'm not saying that ETF is better than unit trust. That structurally they are different. Okay, so there are some structural difference, so that makes it unique So yeah, unit trust is still around. Okay, and I'm not discouraging you to buy unit trust. I'm just telling you that there's an alternative to unit trust that are different. They are listed on the stock exchange. What is the reasonable fund size in order to keep it going in the market? I think for particular ETF in Bursa Malaysia to be sexy, I mean, to still make business sense, right? Need to be a double-digit millions. I mean, I think 30 million, 40 million, in my opinion. So if you look at those that is surviving right now, I think they are still in that kind of size. How do market makers determine the value of the ETF? What are the criteria used by them? The market maker just follow what is the NAV only, what is the IOPV. So the IOPV is calculated by the current trading price of the ETF. So they just quote, according to the IOPV. Afida asks, trying to understand the ETF price versus stock price. The stock price is driven by supply and demand. Yes. But Malaysian ETF has low trader volume. So the market maker will make buy and sell cues to mimic the index movement. So the market maker will create the buy and sell, the bid and ask price based on the IOPV. So IOPV, which is the fair price of the ETF. So if the fair price is 1 ringgit 60 cents, so maybe the bid price is 1 cent lower and higher and bid and ask. So it will be 161 and 159. So it is, it tries to be as close to the fair price as possible so that they can make some tight spread out of it. So that's how the market makers provide the liquidity in the market. Okay, so it's not that's how they make sure that it tracks the market. Okay, all right, so yeah, there are still about 19 questions here, but I don't think I can finish all. Okay, Lily asked, could you please talk about the China ETF I mentioned? Now, of course, I don't put China ETF in our slide today because our slide is all about, the session today is all about Shariah-compliant stocks, right? The topic on Shariah-compliant stocks. So that's why we never talk about China ETF. But you can go to the issue website to find out. Let me show you. You can go to, Afin Huang website, I think, or Principal Asset Management. I think there are two issuer. Okay, you go click the product, S&P Trade Plus F&P New China Tracker. Okay, so you go to Afin Huang website, okay, what do they invest in? Okay, so yeah, say the NAV, how much, participate in the growth of a new China stock. Just study it. Okay, hope I answer your question, Lily. Okay, so just go to Trade Plus. Okay, find New China Tracker. Okay, I think they have another one, Smart Beta. Okay, is it? No, Smart Beta is not. It's not China. Okay. Yeah. So that's how you can do it lah. Okay. Okay. I think I also addressed the question. All right, with that, I think I've come to the end of the session. So let me tell you about our next webinar. Okay, just give me a minute. Let me share my screen. Okay, before I talk about our next webinar, this is Bursa Academy. It's a one comprehensive e-learning platform to teach, to share with you more about the investing resources in the investing articles, recordings, videos, and so on. Simplified, user-friendly. Okay, just go to www.bursaacademy.bursamarketplace.com to find out about it. So yeah, our next webinar is happening on, 21st of July, 2021, Wednesday. It's 8:30 to 10 o'clock. So let me give you the registration link. Okay, let me put the registration link. So that would be on investing psychology. Okay. All right. So investing psychology on next Wednesday, we'll talk about how to avoid chasing high and panic selling. So you'll do a deep dive into how to manage your state of emotion in the market. Okay. With that, thank you everybody for tuning to the end of this session. Build a global portfolio with Shariah-Compliant ETF. I hope that you have gained a great deal of it. So yeah, okay, let me show my slide. I forgot to show the ending slide. Okay. So yes, hope that all of you here stay safe in this pandemic, and then take care of yourself and adhere to all the SOP. And then I will see you on next Wednesday in our investing psychology session. Bye everybody. This is Shane Choo signing off. Okay, for those of you who say cannot buy, your broker cannot buy ETF, right? Just buy some ETF, right? You go to check with your broker, okay? I think they need to do something to your account details, then you can buy certain ETF already. All right, so yeah, see you all in our next webinar.